All right, Chevret Bamus. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Brachas Daf Chai, Daf Yud Ches. We're going to be learning one of the many applications of a pasuk that we have in Mishlei, a pasuk from Shlomo HaMelech, where that reads, Lo yeg lo rosh, cheirev oiseil. One who mocks a pauper is blaspheming the one who made the pauper. Now, literally, it means, as it says, we're not allowed to laugh at, make a mockery of someone who is in a position that God put him in that position. Making fun of him is making fun of God. But there's many applications of it, and this includes a certain extra amount of respect that we have to give to one who has already passed away, to the deceased. As we'll learn over here, the deceased are not obligated in, nor could they keep the mitzvahs. So keeping mitzvahs in the presence of a mace is mocking the mace. It's as if saying, you can't, but I'm doing it. And we're going to see how that leads into the sugya that we're learning. We began the sugya of when I'm occupied in a mitzvah, I'm exempt from a mitzvah. And we learned that in the context of people that are involved in the burial of a mace. But we learned that at the end of last year, and we'll learn a little bit more today, that this means that if the very fact that I'm preoccupied with a burial, that on alone exempts me of mitzvahs. We're going to learn another application, another detail of this mitzvah. Even if I'm not preoccupied, simply observing mitzvahs in the presence of a mace is something that's prohibited. Not because I'm preoccupied. And until Ad Yom Hazeh, we go into a rabbizajac, we cover our tzitzis, and we speak about other pratim. Maybe there are some exceptions, etc. That is going to lead us into other dinim where we are obligated to give a special amount of kavod to human remains. And we see how careful we indeed are of giving kavod hameis. And that's going to open up the whole topic. We're going to begin with the machloikas amonoyim, whether the ones who already passed on are aware of that which is happening in this world. Now, there are many levels to that. But Poyel Mabish today, when we go to our rabbizajac, it's common that we go over to someone who already passed on, and we ask of them that they should daven on our behalf, based on the premise that, especially if we went there, they are aware that we went there, and they're going to know what we're asking for, and they can daven for that. That's the way we practice today. But in the Gemara, there's going to be a machlokes about all that. And we're going to have an opinion that's going to hold, Rabbi Yonasan, that they bechlal don't know what's happening here. And that's going to lead us into unbelievable stories in which we're going to try to refute the shita of Rabbi Yonasan by proving that the Mesim are very much aware of what's happening. And they are aware not only if someone goes to the rabbizajac and notifies them, but they are aware. And that someone was entrusted with money by orphans and that person passed away. And the nifted was being accused of consuming money of orphans. So his son went to the rabbizajac to ask his father to let him know where he hid that money. And he was notified where that money was hidden. Now we're going to learn a sugya now, unlike other sugyas we have in Shas. Sanhedrin Daf Lamed, the Gemara tells us, Divrei Chaloyvais, Loy Mailin, V'loy Meridin. For those of us who learned Perik Echad Rambam Layoim, we had these dinim not that long ago. We're going to deal with it when we learn this daf. Let us start on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis, in the beginning of the Gemara. Again, the Mishnah began, the Perik and the Mishnah began, Misha Meisoi Mutal Lafanov, one who has a close relative that's laying in front of him. So the Mishnah says that he's exempt from Kriya Shema, from Tefilla, from Tefillin, and from all the mitzvahs that are written in the Torah. And as we spoke out yesterday, it doesn't mean they are exempt from negative commandments. They may not, God forbid, eat treif. They are not commanded, they are exempt of keeping positive mitzvahs. And really, the Rishonim ask, the Mishnah could have just said, right, that they are exempt from all the mitzvahs. The Mishnah makes it a point, and we'll learn again other braises from Kriya Shema, from Tefillah, from Tefillin, and from all the mitzvahs. But the Mishnah began, says the Gemara, Mutal Lafanavin. It appears from our Mishnah that when do we have this exemption? Only when the mace is in front of the relative. Now he's exempt. But Vishaina Mutal Lafanav, doesn't that imply that if the mace is not right there, then there is no such exemption? Problem is, here we will contradict this with the following braisa. Misha Mesim with the Lafanav. Here this Braisa is not beginning to speak about mitzvahs, but it's speaking about a non-mitzvah activity, but an activity that a mace cannot participate in, eating. It's not a mitzvah. Says the Braisa, oichel bebayis acher, you should only eat in another house. And by the way, that can mean in another room, but not there. And why? Here's where Rashi tells us, around 6 lines from the bottom, the nira. It looks like, here's an application, lo yeg lo rosh, loig means to laugh at a pauper. Lo yeg lo rosh, chedefaiseyu. And then the Baraisa continues, v'im ein loy bayis acher. What happens if the person himself doesn't own or doesn't have in the close proximity another home? Okay, you don't have to eat in your home. Even if you're not that comfortable, so be it. If you have to choose between eating in someone else's home or eating in front of a mace, don't eat in front of a mace. Or either your friends don't own homes nearby or it's not available, then okay, then eat there, but if you don't even have something from which to make a partition, then at least turn your face in a different direction and only eat like that. Now, l'chu'ura, everything we will continue to learn in the Braisa is a hemshech from both scenarios, whether you're eating in his presence, whether you're eating not in his presence. Don't eat while you are reclining. In other words, you got to eat. You got to survive. Eat on the run. Don't make yourself too comfortable when you eat. And likewise, now here we're speaking about an oinen meisoy mutalofanav, and that includes the din, which taka is the din that we go by. Ve'einoi oichel basar ve'eino shoysi yayin. Right, an oinen, even if the oinen is only midrabanan, which means it's beyond the day of the passing, but the mace is not yet interred, then one may not eat meat, one may not drink wine. When it comes to the avelus of Shiva, here there's already different minhagim. By us, we can eat meat and drink wine. The isur is only when a person is an oinen. The eina mevarech, and everything we're learning now is while the person is in a state of aninus.
So non-oinen is allowed to eat in front of mace?
No. Now, there's no more the mace is buried. The definition of an oinen here would mean the mace is buried. Okay? We're speaking about like by Shiva, right? We can eat meat, we can drink wine. Before they bury,
the mace is mutal.
Mace is mutal of or not. That's the way we learn the Braisa now. Was one that don't eat in front of the mace.
Is that only on the family member? Is that everybody?
That's according to the way Rashi learns, and anyone, because loyeg l'rosh means since the mace can't eat, don't do something that he can't do. It's like you're making a chayzik of him. Okay. The eina mavarach, taiches Rashi. This is so important. Look at the words in second to last line. Ve'einoi tzarech levarach birchas hamoitzi. Eina tzarech means that an oinen midrabanan, midoiraisa, an oinen means someone lost one of his or her close relatives on the day of the loss. Midrabanan, it's until the burial. Rashi says, touching this braisa, he's not obligated to make birchas hanehen, which means he could. He doesn't have to. The Tosfot strongly disagrees with Rashi. The last Tosfot in the Amid. He quotes Rashi. Rashi writes, Einu zakuk levarach. He had a different girsa, but it means the same thing. He doesn't have to. Mashma, mitoich perushay. What does that imply? She'im ratza levarach reshoy. Says Tosfos, no. Mi ubi rishalmi ka'amar, im ratza lahachmer ein shoym eloi. Lakach nira loimer einu mevarach means einoi reshoy levarach. And this machloikis is throughout everything we're learning, and we paskin, my friends, like Tosfos, with exceptions. In other words, normally it's not you don't have to, but you could. Don't make birchas hanehen. Back inside, this goes throughout, back inside the Braisa. The eina mezamen. Again, Rashi says it means you don't have to say birchas hamazon, which is a bigger chiddush, because birchas hamoitzi, to begin with, is only midrabanan. So first step is you don't have to keep brachas that are midrabanan. The next step is an oinen, whether lefanav or not, and that's the way we paskin. Rashi says he doesn't have to bench. Tosfos says the same thing. No, he's not allowed to bench. Daf yudches. The ein mevarchin alav explains Rashi, right? You would think, according to Rashi, he doesn't have to make a bracha. he doesn't have to make a bracha, but if he's going to opt out, he should hear it from someone else. No, he doesn't have to hear it from someone else. Ve'ein mezamnin, Allah explains Rashi, he can't even be counted for the zimun. It's even according to Rashi, that he may bench, but since he's not mechoyev to bench, he's not part of the chevra. So if there's 2 people on him, you can't make a zimun. If there's 9 people on him, you can't say the word Elokeinu. Upatir, and again here, for some reason, we are constantly specifying these specific mitzvahs. He's exempt from Kriya Shema, and from Tefillin, and from Tefillah, and from Tefillin, and from all the mitzvahs that are written in the Torah. Again, it's mashma from the flow of the Braisa. The Braisa gave 2 cases, that you left to another environment, or you're there. And l'chayda, everything we're learning goes on everything. In other words, that will be the kasha. No matter whether the mace is in your presence or not, you are exempt. In our Mishnah, it's mashma, only misha meisoi muta lefanav are you exempt. But let's continue with the Braisa. Ube Shabbos. Now, on Shabbos, first of all, meiseiv, you should recline. Simcha Shabbos, Oinek Shabbos, Oinek Shabbos. Simcha Shantav, Oinek Shabbos. You should recline. And you eat meat. And you drink wine. And you have to make a bracha. And you have to make birchas hamazon. And if you're not making a bracha yourself, you have to hear mevarchen olav. And you are counted in the zimun. And you are chayiv b'chol mitzvos amuras b'Torah. Which is what we do nowadays. There's a whole way, no one should know of these things. Being that Havdalah is Matzah Shabbos, and Taka, before burial, we go like, you don't make Havdalah. So when I was an Oinen, so I heard from rabbizajac here, that if you daven mincha Shabbos afternoon before plaga mincha, as we're learning this Masechta, then according to the Tanach Rabbi Yehuda, after plaga mincha it's already night. If I'm not mistaken, I forgot the details. Then we daven ma'ariv after plaga mincha, and again, we're learning gemara, not halacha. Then I think we make havdalah. No, we're figuring out how to make. For you it's Matzah Shabbos. It's still Shabbos. It's enough still Shabbos for you to make havdalah, or something like that. Okay, this is all from the rebbe. I forgot the details, but just the concept of the after Shabbos by my father of blessed memory. Because he passed away in Brazil and he wanted to be buried in Eretz Yisrael, and there was no way of getting there. No way when you pass away in Brazil then, because the planes are not big enough to carry the remains. He got to Eretz Yisrael Wednesday morning, and he was buried Wednesday morning. I didn't make Havdalah that week. Because when would a person make Havdalah? Havdalah, if you don't make it Matzah Shabbos, you can make it until Tuesday night, until the end of Tuesday. So if the burial happens before, then you have to make Havdalah. Many people say that you could make Havdalah. Really, there's a machlekes achreinim. Many are of the opinion that if you're not mechuyev right when Shabbos leaves, then you don't have to make it up. Anyways, in my case, I didn't hear Havdalah that week. That was tefillin. Yeah.
That disagrees, right?
That would go more with Rashi. No, if the word is einot tzarech, but rashoim, then it already has to do with whether you can have kavana. A lot of these dinim. See, there's loik l'rosh, and then if I'm preoccupied with the burial, don't do anything that's going to distract me. Now, if that is the reason, not to be distracted, in the scenario either where all of the burial hachanas were made, or in my father's, my Zayda passed away in Eretz Yisrael. My father was in America. He was going to Eretz Yisrael. He was not there. There was nothing on him to do for the hachanas. He had many siblings there. They were making he couldn't, even if he wanted to. See, every case is a case. Okay, right. Rashba goimer mitoich shenes chayev be'elu. You're speaking about Shabbos? You're telling me on Shabbos is chayev oivazoi. You're chayev in all. Hold on. The Tanach just says you're chayev in all. The Rashba is adding another mitzvah. So the Gemara makes an interruption, and the Gemara explains, "Amar Rabbi Yochanan, my benayu tashmish hamita ika benayu." Dvarim shebetzina. We're speaking about an oinon. But it says, according to the Tanach, you are, according to Rashi, exempt from tashmish. According to Tosfot, an oinon, even on Shabbos, is asur b'tashmish hamit. The Rashbag holds, no, Shabbos is mamish, there's no morning. And therefore, you're chayiv, like where there's a mitzvah of oina, if the wife is not a nida on Friday night. Now, back inside the Gemara. Here's the Gemara's question. Behold, at the end of the day, what does it say in the Braisa? That you are patur, not on Shabbos, during the week. You're patur from Kriya Shema, from Tefilla, from Tefillin. We call mitzvahs muras b'Torah. And again, the Braisa is speaking both. When Meisoi mutal lefanov, the Braisa began by telling you to move to another house. Our Mishnah seems to be saying you are only exempt when Meisoi mutal lefanov. In other words, what's the underlying question? Is the p'tur because of tirda the mitzvah? Makes no difference where you are. Is the p'tur only because of loyeg l'rosh? Loyeg l'rosh is only when you are in the close proximity of the deceased. So there's two opposite answers in the Gemara. Min hakotza el hakotza. Amar Rav Papa. Learn the Braisa. When does the Braisa say everything that we just read? Only in the case where you didn't have another house. Your friend doesn't have another house. You don't even have a mechitza. So eat, turn your face. But it's lefanov. That is where the Braisa says all the other dinim, that you are exempt. Amachzer panav oichel. But even the Braisa agrees that if Taka you went to another house, you're chayiv in all the mitzvahs. So says Rav Papa. We don't pass in this way. Rav Ashi Omar, no. The word meisoi mutal lefanav doesn't mean begashmias that the mace is there. Meisoi mutal lefanav means as long as the burial didn't happen in the psyche, in the mind of the close relatives, the mace is there. It's always meisoi mutal lefanav, even if you're not physically there. Rav Ashi Yomar kiven shemutal olav l'kayvroi. See, that's the key. It's upon you to bury. That's why I mentioned that in a case where either all the preparations were done or other siblings took care of it, that might be different. But when it's on you to bury, don't do anything other than because you are preoccupied, and there's like two parts to the to ha'isik v'mitzvah patam and mitzvah. The other detail is if you're going to start getting involved in mitzvahs, that might delay the burial for one instant. And it's very important, other than reasons for kavod hameis, to mamish bury ASAP. Kiven shemutal l'kayvroi kemutal lefanav dami. And he gives a gavaldik herayah. In Parshas Chayesara, when Sarah Imeinu passed away, so the Torah begins by Yakam Avraham me'al panei meisoi. He left. The Torah speaks about he left to negotiate and to buy right the Maras HaMachpelah. And v'nemar. And even after he left Sarah, when he's speaking to the Bnei Ches, you know what he told him? He told him these words: "The ekbara meisi milafanoi." Then when I'll purchase that plot, I will bury the mace that's in front of me. The Torah said that he walked away. It wasn't even nice. He didn't take the remains of Sarah when he was negotiating with them. So you see that the Torah uses the words milafanoi, which makes sense. Milafanoi. It's always in front of the psyche of the person. In other words, as long as you are obligated to make all of the hachanas to bury, of dani. Okay. Nachmal, as I told you right now, so could be again. You have to know halacha l'mais. In the case where they're siblings, but again, there's a difference. I'm just going to the case of my father. He was not in Eretz Yisrael. It means he wasn't even there. It wasn't on him. Even if he would have wanted to, or if one of the siblings would have an issue and they would have to give it over to someone else, he wasn't there. No one was going to delegate anything to him. He wasn't there. He was there for the burial, but he wasn't there. Okay, weiter. I think he was there. My father, he was buried in Harazesim there. They don't wait for anyone. So I don't remember. Maybe he wasn't there. They don't wait. For the mace, for the betterment of the deceased. Okay, another kasha back to the Mishnah. Meisoi. Meisoi means that when are you exempt? When it's yours. Meisoyin. But if it's not you, one of your relatives, and for example, even though you're guarding the relative, mishamrai, even though you're guarding in close proximity, and even if it's not on you to bury, but there is a concept of loyeg l'rosh, not oisik b'mitzvah. You're close, well, you're not exempt. That also can be relearned. Hamashameres hameis, people who are shomer, and that's halacha today. Shomer means when someone passes away, we don't want for the remains, for the body, to be without a shomer until the burial. So hamashameres hameis afal pi she'enoi meisoi. It's not your relative. Says the Braisa, Pater mikrishma umenat tefilla umenat tefillin umikol mitzvahs muras b'Torah. So why does our Mishnah say meisoi? Answers the Gemara. Each Tana is complementing the other Tana. They're not contradicting themselves. Each one is teaching a different din. And each one agrees to the other din. Both. There are two exemptions. Mishamroi, if you are the guard, then you are exempt even though it's not Mesai. And that has to do with loyeg lorosh. Don't do a mitzvah in front of the mace. It looks like you're mocking the mace. And if it's Mesai, if it's your relative, even if you're not Mishamroi, ha'isik b'mitzvah, we don't want you to delay the burial. Another exemption. Asks the Gemara, hold on. So now we have two exemptions. Only Mesai u'mishamroin. What about, you're not guarding. The person is already buried. But you are now in the Beis HaKvaros. Abel mahalach bebeis HaKvaros. Are you not exempt? Can be. V'hatanya, says the Braiso, lo yahalich odom bebeis HaKvaros. A person may not walk in a Beis HaChayim when the tefillin are on one's head. See, the tefillin on the hand is already concealed. But on the head it's exposed. Or, nor the Sefer Torah b'zroi v'koirei, or holding a Sefer Torah and reading from it. Says Tosfos, right, it's a second Tosfos, but it's already halfway down. Not only with a Sefer Torah. V'hu adin da alpeh aser likrois. We may not say Torah balpeh in front of a mace. Or in front of a kaved. Or, now, if you're saying a dvar Torah, lekavoid hameis, that's different. That's why in eulogies it's accepted, even when the mace is present, people say divrei Torah lekavoidoi. No, the problem is you're mocking him. It looks like you're making fun of him. If you're doing it for his honor, it's pung faker. You're doing it for his honor. Nor ve'im oisakein, and if you did so, oiver mishum loyeg lorosh, he who mocks a pauper, cheireif oiseyu, you are blaspheming. You're being macharef, the one who made the pauper. Answers the Gemara, this is the point. Hassan over there, when does the Brisa say that even if it's not mutal ufanav, even if it's after the burial, you're in a Beis HaChayim, there are restrictions, that's only toich arba amois, who the asur. However, chutz la arba amois, but even if you are in a Beis HaChayim, but if you're not within 4 cubits, which is 6 feet, there, you're chayiv. The Amar Mar, where do we find the concept of 4 amas? That mace, toifis, mamish like a living person. We're going to learn those dinim of Chatzeder Shal Adam Kaina. We'll learn these dinim in Hilchas Kinyanim, right in Bava Metzia. But here, mace, toifis, dalad amas likriya shema. That means you're not allowed to say kriya shema mitoich dalad amas, either of a corpse or of a cave, of a grave. Hach over here, chutz l'dalad amas. And chutz l'dalad amas, you talk about chutz l'dalad amas. There, you are only exempt if you're a shayman, or if it's your mace. But that exemption is only if you're a shayman, or if it's meisai. If it's not a shayman, not meisai, chutz l'dalad amas, you're chayiv. Now, you have an Eretz Yisrael by the Kvarim of Tanoim. So I'll just give you an example that if you'll notice, we have the schus to go there. By Rabbi Akiva. So it says on the Kever, I think, Amar Rabbi Akiva, by the Mishnah Yuma, Ashreichem Yisrael, learning a Mishnah, learning Torah, within 4 amas of a mace, learning his Torah, that's also permitted. That's Likvoidoi. People go today to Meiran, they learn Zohar, Mamish, by the Kever. That's Likvoidoi. Very good. Margal Bepima is on the Kever, and people read it. People are learning it. That's what you see by all the Kvarim. They quote memories, they quote sayings of that Tana or of that Amayda. That's different. That's L'chvoidai. When it comes to davening, it's a little controversial. We do find by certain Kvarim in Eretz Yisrael, I think by the Rambam, now they made a beautiful shul, mamish by the Kever. Could you go with your talis and tefillin, toich taladamas, or not? It's not okay, Baruch Hashem. You have to be careful. Some people hold that by, there's a concept of the Shechina that's Sharia by Tzadikim, and there's a Shechina Sharia by a minyan. So davening there is avoided giving covet hames. I'm not saying we don't do that. By Miron they daven there.
In Morocco they also built a shul right next.
Okay, just to know, this is the question. In other words, the heter will all come that if it's like some people, when they put on talis and tefillin, they don't walk within daladamas. That's a difference. Let's go by the rebbe. Who's greater for us than the rebbe? Dafkanat. We have an oil al yad ha'oil. We have a beis haknesses, a beis hamedrash. People learn the whole day there. It's not by the oil. By the oil, you say minor lashon.
What a
Maras Machpelah, you were more than Dalad Amas for like a mile away. We're in the second story. It's Toif Dalad Amas. Okay, let's go right. No. If it's outside Dalad Amas, the patur means not because of Loy L'Rosh. Because Ha'isik Mitzvah, part of the mitzvah. Ha'isik Mitzvah, patur min mitzvah. That's the lashon of Chazal. Okay, Gufa. So now we're going to coming back to the mace, giving honor to our mace. Hamashaman as a mace. Afal pisha ein a mace soy patur mikriya shema min atfila. Guys, the first white line min atfilin umikol mitzvahs hamudas batoyda. Now, what happens if you have two people that can be guards? They should take turns because you don't need to have two people. So says the Braisa Hoyu Shnayim, take turns. What's for take turns? No one should miss the Zman Shema, and you'll see throughout that it's not just this Zman of until the end of the third hour. They were medagdek to say Shema by sunrise, right before sunrise. Say it at the right time. And then take turns. Ben Azai Yoimer. And Ben Azai is saying something in disagreement with the Tanakama. If you're traveling on a ship, on a boat, and you take the mace with you, there, no one has to be together with the mace. You can leave the mace in one corner, and both can go daven in the other corner. Obviously, the Tanakama is saying, no, even on a sfina, there should always be a shomer. My benayu, what's the underlying machlokes alpi nigle, amar avina, whether chosheshin la'achbarim, whether we should suspect that on a ship there's going to be mice, or weasels, or rats, or some sort of rodent. Marso, Tanakama holds, even on a ship there might be rodents. So you can't leave the body alone. Umar Sova, Ben Azai holds, leichashinam. Holds alpi nigle, the reason you need to have a shomer is for there not to be a rodent that's going to eat up or defile the body. Alpi Kabbalah, it's more than that, and it's connected one to the other. The achbarim begashmius shenishtal shulumehem from achbarim beruchnius, and having the presence of a yid, a Jew, dafke, because we have a neshama. There's certain unholy spirits that might latch on or leech on to the mace. That is circumvented when someone is standing there. Maybe that's also the meaning of this machlokes.
But if they knew that there for sure was no mice in that area, would they both agree that you don't need a shomer?
Alpi Kabbalah for sure not. That's the pshat of Ben Azai. No, it's Ben Azai holds aloy chayshinon, meaning he's not concerned with ruchnius de kashmira, only for a physical shmira. Tanakama, the way I understand, holds that it's not just about people should not defile. It's about some ruchais ra'is. Right, Tanach Rabbanan. Hamoy lechatzam is malakam lamak. Hamoy lechatzam is when you're carrying bones, when you're transporting bones from place to place. This is also, it's very tragic, but it's not the way people think. I'm speaking all theoretically, that once someone is buried, they may never be interred. No, there are many times that you do that. To move a person from Chutz Laretz to Eretz Yisrael, that's a heter. If a person is buried in a place where no Yidden live there anymore, no one visits them, that's connected to our sugi, and they know what's happening. And they benefit when people come to visit them. And people do a mitzvah there by the caver to say Kaddish there. That's a justification. There's so many chuvas from Ramosha about this. So even now, people can move the atzomis from place to place. In the times of Chazal, everyone got buried. They got buried for 1 year. After a year, after the body decomposed, they would inter the body, the bones, and they would then bury the bones with the bones of their ancestors. That was a common minig bisman Chazal. So when you're transporting bones, you have to do it respectfully. Hareza lo yitneim b'diskaya. Don't put it in a disc, in a sack. And the yitneim agal b'chamor, and put the sack on a donkey. And you will also be riding on that donkey. V'yirkav aleim b'pnei shenoig v'heminik b'zoyim. It's disrespectful. Now, obviously, if you are afraid and you have to move quickly, v'im hoyim esyadam and anachrim, or mipnei listim, then get away as quick as you could, even if it means doing something that is of disrespect to their remains. Ukederech she'amru ba'atzamois, kach amru b'sefer Torah. No, says the Gemara, hold on. We said two dinim. One din is that you may not put it on a chamoid and go on the chamoid. Then we said an exception that if there's a fear, then transport it any way you could get from A to B ASAP. So ahaya, ilaim, it goes on the reisha. Of course, pshita, that we have to give kaveh to a sefer Torah as much as to human remains. Me got a sefer Torah matzamis. The chiddush is a sefer that even in the case where you have a justifiable reason, where you have to make a quick transportation, there you may put the bones on the chamoid and you go on the chamoid. So the Brais says mechadish, even a sefer Torah can be treated the same way. If you have to escape, you are afraid, and you're going to be noigim and igbizayin. This is very relevant today. People travel with sefer Torah. How do you do it? It's very common that when a sefer Torah is transported, it's made puzzle by untying one of the yediyos, one from the other. It's invalidated. Not that there's still a lot of kedusha, but it doesn't have that great kedusha. And even then, some people put it under, some people take it with them. When you take a sefer Torah in a car, v'chulei, to be careful that we should be noig the greatest amount of kavod for a sefer Torah. Let's move. Amar Rachaba, Amar Rav Shmuel. Thank you. Amar Rachaba, Amar Rav Yehuda. Wow. Kol haroya hameis. When a person is seeing a mace being led to his or her burial, when you don't participate in the escort and the levaya oived, this in itself, you violate mishum loyeg l'rosh chedev oitzeyu. Now understand that the chiddush here, Atkan we learned that if you are within daladamas, you can't do certain things because you're mocking them. That also implies that if you're outside their daladamas, they don't know. You're not mocking them because they don't know. Here it looks like no matter where you are, if you are able to participate in the levaya and you don't, you're mocking them. Oh. Ve'im hi lavo, and if you did participate in the levaya, mascharoi, amar avasi, olav akosov oimer, malve Hashem choinen dal. Now the literal pshat is malve means to lend. That lending God. How can we lend God? God lends us. Hopefully God gives us a gift, but at least God gives us a loan. Us lending God, be gracious to a poor person. When you are gracious to a poor person, it's as if you are giving a loan to Hashem. That's the pshat. The drush is malve, don't read malve, read milave. That when you are milave amazed, it's as if you are escorting God. That's how great it is. Umachabdoi. And when you give honor, literally umachabdoi means you're machabed God. The drush is when you're machabed amazed, it's like you are choinen and evyoin. And there's nothing greater than being gracious to a pauper. All of this is predicated on them knowing you're honoring them. You're doing it for them. So now this is the big question. Are they aware of what's happening in their close proximity? Or maybe even more, maybe they know what's happening? Or are they not aware? If they are completely unaware of what's happening, ba'olam haza, then this whole concept of giving them honor after they passed away, it's giving honor to the living, it's giving honor to the relatives. That's also a maila, but you're not giving them honor. So that's the question. That's a machloikis. It begins with a machloikis between Rabbi and Rabbi Yonasan. And hopefully we'll get there. But at the end of this whole sugya, Rabbi Yonasan retracted the opinion that we're learning right now. But right now, this is what happened. Rabbi and Rabbi Yonasan have a shakli v'azli. Shakli v'azli means they were coming and going. The Beis HaKvaris. And have a koshadia techelta the Rabbi Yonasan. Nowadays, Baruch Hashem, we have what we call a talis cotton beged. In those days, they didn't have a talis cotton beged. People wore one beged, a jalaba, a Moroccan coat, a Moroccan robe. And on the end of the jalaba, they used to wear the tzitzis. There wasn't an option of taking off your tzitzis. Taking off your tzitzis, then you know what it would have meant? Taking off your garb. You can't do that. Elama, the tsanua garments go all the way to the ground, like the kahanim in the Beis HaMikdash. And if you want to show respect to the mason by not doing a mitzvah in front of them, they didn't have pants to tuck everything in. The covet would be to lift it up, not to have it all the way down to the ground. So he was have a koshadyo techelta the Rabbi Yonasan. He allowed for his tzitzis to be dragging on the ground. That means that when he walked in the Beis HaChaim, his tzitzis sometimes were mamash going over kvarim. Amalei Rabchia, Daliyah. Daliyah means lift it up. Today we would say to a person, either tuck it in, or if you're wearing a jacket, make sure that the jacket covers the tzitzis. Today, we don't allow our tzitziyos to be exposed in a Beis HaChaim. Why? Kedei shelo yoimru. Because the Mason will say, they see what you're doing. They see that you're walking there. They see that you're walking there with your mitzvahs azoy exposed. They're going to tell you, Lamachar boy metzleinu. Tomorrow, you living guys, you're joining us. Who's joining whom? By the way, today, right now, this was written many years ago. Today, our Mashiach is about to come. Today, we tell the Mason, Lamachar, you're coming to us. But they're going to say you're coming to, the Mason are saying to the living, you're coming to join the Mason. And va'achshav mecharfin oisanu, now you're mocking us. Mocking us means you're doing something so beautiful that we can't do. So it's an affront to us. In other words, Rabbi Chia is telling Rabbi Yonasan, they are aware of you walking with your tzitzis. You're mocking them. Amar lay, to which Rabbi Yonasan responds, Mi yadi kulahai, are they aware? No. And he's quoting a pasuk in Koheles. He's quoting the seifa of the pasuk. And listen to the words. V'hamesim eino yoidim ma'uma. Those who passed away, they know nothing. Meaning, they know nothing of this world. The feidish pasuk. And my friends, that's the klal. If you learn Tanach without Torah Shebal Peh, you know nothing. So he quoted the pasuk. So Amalei, so Rabbi Chia tells Rabbi Yonasan, listen here. Im Karisa, if you read this verse once, I'm sure that Lo Shanis, you didn't read it twice. If you would have read it again, you would have understood what it really means. And if you read it twice, then you needed the third time and you didn't have the third time. And if Nabach, you already learned it Shalashta, then you need help. Then if you're not divinely inspired to know what it means, then what you lacked was someone to tell you what the verse means. And now he's quoting the pasuk from the beginning. This pasuk in Koheles reads, Ki achayim yoidim sheyamusu, that the living know that they will die. What does that mean? And then it says, and v'hamesim, the living know that they're going to die, but the dead ones don't know anything. So he says no. Chaim is a name that you give to a tzaddik. Why is a tzaddik called a Chaim? Because emes means something that doesn't change. We learn in Chassidus. A person who is alive that will pass away, even when they're living, they're not alive. A tzaddik, even after a tzaddik passes away, the tzaddik is alive, right? So Chaim is another name of a tzaddik. A tzaddik lives a life with the knowledge that physically he's going to pass away. And people that leave their mortality in front of their minds are people that always behave better. Because they know I'm here temporarily. It's Chaim, Yoidim Shiyamusu. Chaim goes to tzaddikim. And why do we call tzaddikim Chaim? Because they are taka always alive. Shabim misas, and even after they physically passed away, they're called Chaim. And where do we find in Scripture that someone who even after he passed is called living? Sheneman, as it says, Ubinayahu ben Yehoyada, he was very instrumental helping Shlomo HaMelech build the Beis HaMikdash. He was the one that got the Shamir worm, and we call him, he is Ben Ishchai. Benayahu was the son of a living man. Who's the living man? Yehoyada. Yehoyada passed away. Doesn't matter. He was the son of a, he passed away. No, he was, a tzaddik is always alive. Right? Emunah, Ava, and Yira. Igeres Chav Zayin. Rav Pa'alim, we're speaking about Benayahu. He was a man of many achievements. Literally, it means he came from the city called Mikapziel. He was the one that struck down the two lions of Moav. We'll see soon what this means. And Vuhu Yarad, and he was the one that went down. Vehika Eswadi B'toy Chaboir, and he slew, he killed a lion inside the pit. B'yoyim Hashalik, on the day of snow. That's the whole pasuk. Now let's learn how the Gemara teaches every part of the verse. Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis. Ben Ishchai. First of all, Ben Ishchai asks the Gemara, Ater Kula Alma B'nei Meisininu. Everyone begins off being Ben Ishchai. It's not how did you come into the world, right? They didn't have IVF then. If you got conceived, I mean your father is alive. Ella Ben Ishchai. Ben Ishchai means that Yehoyada was the head of the Sanhedrin. Ben Ishchai means that Benayahu, even after his father passed away, he wanted to be called, I am the son of a living man. Right? David Melech Yisrael, Chai v'Kayim. Shafilu b'misasoi karu chai. Number one. Rav Pa'alim Mikapziel means Now we're going to Benayo. What was the greatness of Benayo? Sheriba v'kibates. Sheriba v'kibates payalim l'toira. Oh, that he increased and he garnered achievements for Torah. That was Benayo. For who he kashnei Ariel Moyav. Literally, he killed the 2 lines of Moyav. Now, Moyav is David HaMelech. He descends from the Rus Hamoyavi. Beis HaMikdash is called Ariel. That Benayo was a man that was so great that not during Mikdash Rishon, that Ariel, nor during Mikdash Sheni was there ever a man as great as Benayo. Everyone was like a corpse in comparison to him. That's that he hika shnei Ariel moyev shelo hiniach kamoisai lo b'mikdash rishon v'lo b'mikdash sheni. Wow. For who and why was he so great? We'll see it because he went to the mikveh even when he had to break the ice. And in Golus, all of the great Hasidic rebbes did just that. So Baruch Hashem, now we're ready for Mashiach. We have these great milas. What does that mean? 2 opinions. One opinion says the tavar gezize de barda. He broke slabs of ice in order v'nochas v'taval, in order to go to the mikveh. Says Rashi, why did he need to go to the mikveh? It's a gewaldige Rashi. Because he was a Balkari. My friends, Tefillas Ezra by Yesheni. Ezra built the second Beis HaMikdash. Here we're speaking about Bayis Rishon. So you see that the concept of Tefillas, what we call now Tefillas Ezra, of not davening, or not learning, at least not davening when a person is a Balkari, that goes back already to before. You were not obligated, but people did that. And the Gevaldigkeit of Benayo is that even if he needed to crush the ice, he did that. Another shot of that of going down into the pit and slowing the lion on the day of snow, that the Tanach Sifra de Beirav, that he learned Sifra de Beirav. The Sifra refers to Toras Kahanim. Until today, some people psychologically say, "Oi, Kachim is too hard for me to learn." Say the Chumash, say Mishnah, Gemara. He made a point to learn the whole Sifra de Beirav on a day of snow. You know, it's in the middle of winter. What's the chiddush? Winter days are very short. The Yom HaSholik. He wanted to show people, if there's a will, there's a way. It's not easy. But make it easy. And he was able to learn the whole Seder Kachim during one winter day. And Chazal tell us this happened on Asara B'Tevis. This is where Asara B'Tevis is the day that Nebuchadnezzar laid a siege around the walls of Yerushalayim Zman Bayis Rishon. He built the first Beis HaMikdash. You know, he foresaw that the temple is going to get destroyed. That the only way we're going to have forever the karbanos is by learning about it. Now, that's not enough. We want the Beis HaMikdash. But in the event that there isn't a Beis HaMikdash, learn about it. And he introduced that. That was his greatness. Now, when it's Vamesim, you know what that means? Not that the dead don't know anything. No. It means that the wicked, even when a rasha is alive, he's already called dead. As it says, very strong words, spoken to Tzidkiyo. Tzidkiyo, we learned this in Erechin. Tzidkiyo was a melech kosher. But Bnei Doiroi were the Shoim. And he is responsible for not admonishing enough Bnei Doiroi, so sometimes he's called a wicked king. Not him, the generation. Va'ata, you, chalol rasha, you wicked corpse. That means Tzidkiyo was spoken to when he was alive, and he's already called a chalol, Nisi Yisrael. So in other words, so the pshat is that v'hamesim, Rishoyim, when they are alive, einam yoidim u'uma, they make believe that they don't know they're going to die. They forget about their day of death, which is why they are Rishoyim. That's the meaning of the pasuk in Koheles. But not, he's telling all this to Rabbi Yonason, not that when people actually are Mason, that the Eina Yoidim U'uma. They know. The Ibai Sema, another source, that a rasha, even alive, is called a mace. It says in Shoiftim, Al Pi Shnei Edim, Al Pi Shnayim Edim, Oi, Al Pi Shloisha Edim. Look at these words. Yumas, Hameis, not Yumas Achai. Yeah, if someone is found guilty for a capital sin, so he's put to death. Putting someone to death is not Yumas HaMeis. Touch the words. Yumas HaMeis means the mace is put to death. It's like we find the Lashon, Geir Shenes Gayer. So there we say, someone who converted, they were born with the Jewish neshama. Because if not, it would say, Goyshen is Gaya. Same thing over here. Yumas Hames. Yumas Hames. Chayu. He's Chay. Ella, he's already called a mace. So Bekitzer, Rabbi Yonason's pasuk of Koheles was refuted. And now the Gemara continues. Bnei Rabbi Chia. The sons of Rabbi Chia. Guys, the sons of Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Chia, they were like Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We'll learn a story about them in Tainus. These were the greatest people. Rabbi Chia passed away. And Rabbi Chia owned real estate. He owned farms. And now that he passed away, his sons needed to go work. Like it happens many times when the father is living, the father supports all of his kids. The father passes away, they lose a father, and they lose their provider. And Nafik Likiriyasa, they went out to the villages to start working. So they were habituated of learning day and night, and now they needed to spend some of their time learning, and because of that, Ayaker Lohu Talmudayim. They forgot some of their learning. And they were in such pain that they forgot the learning. And Havdo Komitzayde La'at Kuri, they were in pain trying to remember it. And so you get the pain, they forgot it, and then they wondered, does our father know of our pain? Amar Lohu Chad L'Chavre, one asked his brother, Yada Avun, does our great father, who's already in the Olam HaEmes, does he know Ba'ait Tzara? If he'll know our pain, maybe he'll daven that Hashem will help us remember. Amar Lei, so the brother responded, Amar Le'idach, Mino Yada, how would he know? So the guy says, no. Vaksiv, and he proves it. It says, a pasuk in Iyov, that Yichbedu Banav, if someone passes away, even if his sons are honored, the sons became prominent, V'lo the father won't know. The father passed away. It sounds like they don't know. Amar Le'idach, so he says, V'lo Yada, what do they not know? Vaksiv, and it says, another pasuk, that Ach B'soroi Olav Yichav, right, that his flesh will pain him, the nafshay olav te'avol, and he will mourn over his body. In other words, after a person passes away, when they are aware of their body decomposing, and they mourn over it. That a worm eating part of a corpse is as difficult like having a needle poked into a body. Let's hope it's like acupuncture and not worse. That also hurts. I don't like that. But in other words, there's a certain amount of pain, so they do know. So Amri, there's a machlekes between the Bnei Rab Chia. So one told the other, no. Bitsara didu yade. Their own body decomposing, they are aware of it, and they are in pain because of it. But bitsara da achrina lo yade. And b'chlal l'choira pidrush. That's the difference. At tzaddik, your pain is the tzaddik's pain. So he knows more than others. A person who lives a selfish life, after they pass away, could be they don't know. They only know about themselves.
It almost seems like his sons have like Rabbi Yonasson.
No, machlekes. They were arguing. There's a machlekes between the sons. Now, Veloi, again, so this is a conversation between the two sons of Rabbi Chia. What did? Veloi, v'hatayna. And let's start with Mises. It's a chaval that it's late. Mayse b'chassidut. This is Amalav Malka Mayse. Now, just to know, when it says in the Gemara, Mayse b'chassidut, so you have either, this we have throughout the Shas, either it's Rabbi Yehuda ben Abeloi, is called the Chassid, or is Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, and look inside the Marsha, that he brings sources for all that, and he suggests that this story happened dafke with Rabbi Yehuda ben Abeloi, right, one of the Talmidei of Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Yehuda ben Abeloi was extremely poor, and that will make sense to what happened in the story. When someone is very poor, and they give their only coin to tzedakah, the household can be upset, justifiably so. If you have one coin, feed your kids first. Yeah. And that's what happened here. That Ma'aseh b'chassidut, and that's a chassid. A chassid, like we mentioned, a chassid, his kids and your kids are all his kids. So he gave away his last coin. Shenasan dinar la'ani be'erev Rosh Hashanah, and it was not stama year, it was b'shnei batzoyis, it was in a hungry year. That means he pashed like the Chassidim in Russia, when they gave the bread away. That means that their kids will have less food. There's one slice. It's either for your kids or my kids. You have to be on that madrega that we're all the same God's kids. And he gave it away. And and his wife began to aggravate him, or she provoked him. Now you have to read this in the Marsha. This happened. A dinner is muktzah yantiv. That means that he gave that money out of Rosh Hashanah. he actually left his home. He couldn't sleep at home because of the non-pleasant feelings between him and his wife. Not the first night of Rosh Hashanah, the second night of Rosh Hashanah. So you see, in other words, she was upset at him. All al pi berachot. If he would have said, I'm sorry, he stood his ground. It sounds like he was saying, no, someone else needed food. So the fight didn't end. And if a fight doesn't end, it gets worse. So by the second night of Rosh Hashanah, it was just unbearable. So, but he didn't have a friend's couch. Or he didn't want to shame himself or his wife. He didn't want people to know that the shalom bayis then wasn't so good. They were poor also. They didn't have that. The whole house was one room. So if you don't have any place elsewhere to sleep, one option is go to the cemetery. Now in Pirkei Avos it says you're not allowed to sleep in the cemetery, but that's only if you're going to sleep to the cemetery to connect to the ruchos that are there. His kavanah was just to sleep. Let me sleep.
It's a sign of a shaitan, though.
It's a sign of a shaitan. Very good. But anyway, he went. So v'halach lo beis hakvaros.
It's the second night.
Because you'll see from the story that the way Marshal explained, it must have been the second night. So he goes to sleep in the cemetery. And v'shtamashtei ruchos. Chavre igeres hakodesh chavzayin. What did we learn there? This comes from here. Nefesh ruach neshama. The nefesh stays with the remains of the body. It only goes up Shabbos and Yom Tov. Nefesh. The neshama goes up right away. What part of the neshama is here but is able to go up? The ruach. And that's exactly, he didn't hear two nefashis speaking, because you'll see that the nefesh, what they wanted to do, a nefesh can't do. The neshama is not there. By tzaddik it can be different. By the yechida is there, the Rebbe explains. But let's go to nefesh, ruach, and neshama. But the in-between level of the neshama, the ruach, can be here, can go up, can come down. Oh, so these two ruchais, shemesapres zuazu, mesapres, they were women and they were young. They were two young girls that passed away early, and they were conversing with each other. And Amr Chadal Chaverta, one tells her friend, Chaverti, my Chaver, let us go and roam around in the world. Let us leave the world, because a ruach has the ability to be here and then to go up. The nishma, and let us go up to hear ma'achoyre hapargoid. By that lashon we have on Seder Avodah and Yom Kippur, behind the curtain in a different olam, what God is announcing. Ma purana yois bala olam. Second day Rosh Hashanah. On the first day Rosh Hashanah, Hashem judges the Jewish people. So they already judged. So at the night after the first day, the night of the second, let us find out what decisions were made. Now, it's why, let's go hear the brachas that God is giving. L'chayr, again, they passed away young, and they were saddened that they passed away young. Basically, so a depressed person, Isa ruach of depression. You attract, they were saddened. So they wanted to hear the bad things. What happened to us? What else bad will happen this year? So the one colleague responds, I'm unable to go to the other world, or at least to get to close enough to hear to what's happening. Why? Because I'm buried. I'm buried in a reed garment. Now, we're supposed to bury people in linen garments, shrouds, dafka, because they decompose quickly. And there's two approaches here. One approach is that the garments that people wear in the next world are similar to the garments they're wearing here. And really in chassidus we learn that's connected to the mitzvahs that we do. The tzlach says that until the body fully decomposes, unless you're a tzaddik, your ruach is stuck here. Like we mentioned, the neshama goes up. The nefesh is here forever. The ruach is free to roam about. But when can the ruach go and come? If the body decomposed. So one of these girls, their family was so poor they couldn't afford tachrichin. What was even cheaper than tachrichin are garments made out of reeds. Reeds are hard, and reeds prevent the body from decomposing. So because of the poverty, my body is still, so says Litzlach, my body is still intact, or it did not fully decompose. I can't go with you. You know what? L'chiyat. You're keeping me company. It's Seder. You go. Umasha atremat imrili. Go share with me what you hear. And that's what happened. So the one that was buried in shrouds, whose body decomposed, went. And Veshata flew, and then it returned. And Va'amr Allah Chaverta. Okay, Chaverti, ma shomat ma chayri apar. What did you hear? So Amr Allah, Shamati, I heard the following, that Shakol Hazureya B'Riviyah Rishoina, Rashi will tell us as we learn in Tainas, that there are 3 rain seasons in the Holy Land, and not with the dates. The first one is Yud Zayim Mar Cheshvan, the second one is Chav Gimel Mar Cheshvan, the third is Anosh Chodesh Kislev. Now, whoever will plant as people normally do in the beginning, in order for the plantation to be planted before the first rains, the first rain won't be rain, it's going to be hail, and it's going to destroy everything that was planted. Barad Malke Oisei. Hail is going to destroy it. He knew futures. He heard the futures. Yeah? Inside information. Inside information is very good. It's not legal, but it's very good. Halachu. Everyone else planted in the beginning, and he waited, and he made a killing in a good way. He made a fortune. Everyone else's crops got destroyed, but shaloi loylaka. So now, let's go there. He knew it's a good thing to go sleep in the cemetery on Rosh Hashanah. And he knew exactly where, because these 2 ruchais, so the next year, he didn't fight with his wife. He went there without a fight. He told his wife he's going to spend the whole Rosh Hashanah in the Beis Medrash. Then at night, but Rosh Hashanah, you're not allowed to do that. I'm just kidding. Chas v'sholom. So, he went to the oil. Oh, thank you, David. Lashana Acheres, halach v'lama Beis HaKvaris. He goes and he sleeps in the Beis HaKvaris. And v'shama oisan shtei ruchais, same 2 spirits. Shama sapri zumzu. And again, Amar Chad l'chaverta, boi v'nashid ba'olam, and v'nishma ma'acheri apargud ma puranis ba'lo olam. They were still sad. They're still looking out for the Puranis. Amar lo chaverta, no. Didn't I tell you that Eini Yechayla? You know why? Sha'ani kavura b'machatzela shel kanim. And here it makes sense, because the first one thought that by now the reeds decomposed and the body decomposed. That didn't happen yet. Ela lechiat u'masha atshimad boy v'imri li. And again, so one spirit went and flew, and it returned. And the chaverta that was stuck here told the flying chaverti mashu mat machari apargut. Amrullah shamaiti. I heard that they decided in the heavens, shakol hazireya b'riviyah sheniya. Whoever's going to, people naturally, if last year when I planted early, I took a beating, so this year I'll plant later. Whoever's going to plant later, there's going to be a shidafin, a dry wind blast that only is detrimental to saplings that are very fresh. That means that people were to plant earlier, by the time the wind blast will happen, it's more developed. It will have the koyach to withstand the shidafin. People that will plant a little bit later, they're going to get beaten up again. Shidafin malka oisai. So again, he knew inside info. Halach v'zara b'riviyah rishani. He planted earlier. No one else did that because they based on what happened last year. And nachamo shakal olam kol nishtaf. You know why all this happened to him? Because he gave tzedakah. He became wealthy. All that happened, shakalim kolay nishtav, v'shalay lay nishtav, his was not wind blasted. Amar olay ishtay, mipneima, now his wife became suspicious. How do you know all this information? Why is it that last year, shtakei, shakalim kolay laka, but v'shalcha, she didn't say shalano, interesting. But yours, lay laka. Va'achshav, shakalim kolay nishtav, v'shalcha, it could be because she didn't feel like it was hers. Because what do you think he did with all that money? He gave it all to tzedakah. So she said, it's yours. Okay, his wife asked, communicated, he was honest. So he shared everything with his wife. What happened? Amru, it said that it wasn't more than just a few days. Ad shenafla ketata, there was a quarrel between Rabbi Yehuda ben Rabbi's wife and the mother, and the mother of that girl that passed away young. V'shal ima shal oiseriva is the first widest line. So Amar Allah, so the wife of the chassid told the mother of the girl that passed away young, because they were quarreling, lechi ve'erech biteich, let me go show you your daughter that you buried her in a machatzel shel kanim, and that is keeping her ruach stuck in this world. Now, what does all this prove? 1 second. So he first of all, you have inside information, don't share it. And here he shared it, and now this came out. So it came out. It came out. Now the mother knew what was tutzach. And that gave her a lot of tsar. And we'll see from the story that her daughter sensed, she knew that her mother was in pain. They knew that this happened. This is all going to be a raya to Rav Chia, that the Mesim know exactly what's happening here. Lashana Acheres, not at least what pains them. Lashana Acheres, the next year, again, is beginning a minig. Halach v'lam beis hakvaris. And the Shama Isanucha, Shama Sapri Zumzu. And again, Amrullah Chaverti, Boy V'Noshad V'Oilam, and Ishmachari Apargud, Maporanius V'Oilam, Avala Amallah, responds that riva that was buried in the reeds, shrouds, Hini, no, let me be. The Varam Shabbein Lebenecha, or the one that was not buried in the reeds, said, no, let me be. Our conversation, Kfar Nishmu Ben Achayim, the living ones know about it. And we're not allowed to speak about that. So it's very interesting. So they are aware, but they were not so aware, because if they are aware, wouldn't they know that the chassid overheard them? Oh, so there's levels of awareness. So they didn't know that a chassid is there, overhearing them. But they did know that the mother wasn't sad. Alma, all of this is a kasha that Yodei answers the Gemara. No, it doesn't prove that the Mesim are aware on their own of what is happening amongst the living. You know what it means. Dilma inish achrina shachiv. Someone else passed away. You think when the wife of the chassid told the mother of the girl that passed away that I know that your daughter was buried, so everyone found out about it. So maybe someone in that village heard about this whole story, and then that person passed away, and va'azal va'amar lahu. So it could be they know information only if someone who was alive with that knowledge passes away, and they share that info. So it's not a proof. So the Gemara gives another attempted proof. Tashama, Zeiri have mafkid zuzi gabi ushbezichtei. Zeiri, he entrusted some of his money by his landlady. The asav azal lebeirav. Zeiri went to learn in the yeshiva. By the time he got back, his landlady passed away. And he didn't know where she kept his money. He wanted his money back. So what did he do? Azal basrola chatzar mavis. He went into chatzar mavis. He went to the Beis HaChaim. He figured out how to go to that neshama. Amar lo, and he found her and he told her, Zuzi heicha, wo is mein Geld? Amar le, so she told him, listen, Zil, sheklinu, go and take it. And she told him where she left it. Mituse, mituse tzinoira de dasha beduch palan. It's under the pivot of the door in that place. So that no. And number two, now that we're talking, so the woman who passed away asked Zeiri, send a message to my daughter. The Emir Lola Imen, please tell my mother that the shadali she should send to me masrekai, my comb, the goifsoi, the chuchla, and the tube in which I keep my cosmetic blue eye makeup. She should send me my items, bahada planisa, with that and that woman that's coming here tomorrow. So the commentators say is that here also the one who passed on, the landlady, was very young. She was still in pain that she passed away young. So the way she expressed her pain to her mother was, I still need my comb, I still need my cosmetics. Go send it to me with that and that person that passed away. So Alma, why do we see that what? That Yadi, she knew who's passing away. She knew who's going to pass away. So they know. So the Gemara says it's not a proof. Dilma Duma v'loi kol yordei Duma. Duma is the malach that's in charge of death. So maybe Duma, right a day before people passes away, they announce who's going to pass away.
So she didn't really know.
So she knew it from Duma. Duma is like in between here and there. But to know it directly from the Chayim, maybe you don't know. We're not done yet. One more story. Tashema, Davua de Shmuel, the father of Shmuel, his name was Abba, and his father's name was Abba. Abba bar Abba. Either Kemeneg Asfardim or Kemeneg Ashkenazim, that his father was alive. The wife got pregnant, and sadly he passed away before the birth of his son, so they named him after his father. It can be both ways. Avua de Shmuel have a mafkadei gabi zusa de yasmi. Orphans entrusted the father of Shmuel with money. Problem is that when he passed away, he did not notify people where their money is. Shmuel wasn't around his father when his father passed away. So what happened? People thought that the father of Shmuel didn't notify anyone where the money is because he took the money for himself. And people were being moitzelaz. They were saying something very disrespectful. They began to call Shmuel, you are the son of the father that consumed the money of orphans. So Shmuel decided, I have to, in honor of my father, I have to give them back the money. This is very meaningful. In other words, you see that this communication with the deceased is not so pashut. If it's only about giving the money back to the orphans, you know what Shmuel could have done? He could have out-of-pocketed the money. No, but he wanted everyone to know that his father never took it. So he wanted to know he wanted everyone to see that his father hid it somewhere, and he's going to find the father was honest. So Azal Abasrei lechatzar mavis, he went to the chatzar mavis, and Amar Lahu, when he tells it, and he didn't see his father, he saw other ruchais, and he says, "Ba'inan Abba, I'm looking for Abba." Amru Lei, another kasha, how can he call his father by his name? I'm looking for Abba. So they told him, Abba tu va'ikahacha. Many people are called Abba. Amar Lei, I'm looking for Abba bar Abba. So again they told him, Abba bar Abba nami tu va'ikahacha. Many are called Abba bar Abba. So Amar Lahu, so he says to the chevre, Abba bar Abba avua de Shmuel. I'm looking for Abba bar Abba, who's the father of me, of Shmuel. Where is he? Amrulei, so they told him, by now, he already ascended to the heavenly academy. As he's having a conversation with the other ruchais, he saw Shmuel and Levi, they were chaverim. His friend predeceased him. He saw Levi, the Yosef Abroi. So in the Chatzar Mavis, all of the ruchais, they're like in a circle, a fabrengen, and Levi was outside the circle. Amalei, so he tells Levi, Amai Yosvas Abba, why are you sitting? Two questions. First of all, why are you not in the circle? And second question is, what are you doing here? If my father ascended to the heavenly academy, why are you not there? And my Tamaloi so locked. So he responded answering the second question. Amalei, listen, the Amalei, they told me that Kol Ki Hanach Shni, the Loi Salikat, for all of the years when I was alive, that I did not go up to the yeshiva, to the mesifta of Rebbe office. Rebbe office had a yeshiva. And Levi felt, the Torah that's being taught there, I don't need to learn. So he never went to that yeshiva. So Rebbe office was in a lot of pain. That Levi didn't learn with him. So they passed him for all the years that you didn't go to Levi's yeshiva, to Rebbe office's yeshiva, you can't go to the mesifta de Rekia. And va'achalishtei ladate, you caused them distress, loy malinalach, lemesifta de Rekia. I'm stuck here. Now, he didn't answer why he's outside the circle. But in the meanwhile, the father came back. And when Shmuel sees his father, he sees that his father is crying and laughing. Amar Lei, Shmuel tells his father, Tate, my tama kobachis, why are you crying? Amar Lei, so he told him, De la'agal. What does la'agal mean? What does ba'agolo ubizman karev? La'agal means b'mehera. In a short amount of time, you're coming. I'm crying. My tama achicha, so why are you laughing? He says, I'm laughing, I'm nachas, because the chashivat b'hai al motuva. Rashi says, because you, Shmuel, are very chashiv in this world. Amalei, so Shmuel right away says, chashivna, if I'm considered chashiv in the eyes of God, then I am asking of God that my friend Levi should be admitted right away. Na'ilu ala Levi. And they right away listen to Shmuel. Here we go. We go to the Beis HaChaim. We ask Tzadikim, and they have God listens to them quicker. Va'ilu ala Levi. Now Amar Lei. Okay, now he gets to the point. He tells his father, Zusa di Asmahech. Where's the money of the Yisraelim? Amar Lei Zil, go. And Shaklinu ba'amsa drachaya. There is. I hid it in the bedstone, inside the bedstone of the mill. And when you're going to go in that hidden place, you're going to find 3 layers of money. The top layer and the bottom layer belongs to us. Now meaning it belongs to you. The middle one belongs to the orphans. And Amalei asks Shmuel to his father, Oy Gewalt, it's late. My Tama Avadahachi, why did you put it in the middle? Amalei, so the father of Shmuel tells Levi, I'll tell you why. Because if If thieves would find this hidden place, a thief doesn't want to get caught. He steals quickly. So he'll get the top layer of money. Like this, even if Ganavim find a hiding place, our money will get stolen. The orphan's money will stay intact. If somehow the earth will corrode the money, so the ones that are laying on the ground, we should lose the money. So now Shmuel was able to show how honest his father was. Again, the kasha is, Alma the Yadi. What's the Yadi? You see that they knew that who was Chashiv ben Achayim. The fact that his father knew that Shmuel is Chashiv. So again, Dilma Shaina Shmuel, not a Raya, because given the Chashiv, since he's Chashiv, when a person is not Chashiv, when do the people in the heavens know that he's coming there? A day before they pass away. Duma announces. If you're Chashiv, before a day before, Kadmi or Machrizi, they announce before more than a day. Panu Makayim, make place for Shmuel. To be continued. Look at that. Wow.